How the hell did we get here? The UFC heavyweight division has been the worst division in the UFC right now, and it has been for a pretty long time now. Of course, you have the elephant in the room, or should I say the duck in the room, Jon Jones. Never have we seen a quote-unquote champion conduct themselves in this way. Never have we seen a champion clearly just not fight the interim champion and declare themselves undisputed. Never have we seen a petition for a champion to be stripped, let alone be this big. And the unfortunate part of this whole ordeal is that this is wasting the prime of an extremely talented and well-rounded young star in Tom Aspinall, who has already been forced to defend his interim title and is currently sidelined for practically no reason. And forget about the whole Jon Jones and Tom Aspinall situation. Even if they fought and moved on from this, the rest of the division doesn't look too hot either. Ciryl Gane, the next best contender, is like 1 foot in, 1 foot out in the fighting game, choosing to film movies more than he actually wants to fight contenders. Volkov is in a weird position coming off a close loss with Ciryl Gane, but pretty much has fought everyone else below him. Sergey Pavlovich was once a really scary contender, but after his loss to Tom, his beatdown from Volkov, and his underwhelming win over Rozenstruik, all that aura was washed away and he's rarely a name talked about in the division anymore. Then everyone else just feels like background characters, names we've seen before that constantly get beat up by the contenders and really never get over the hump of truly being a title contending prospect. In the last 4 years, we've only got one heavyweight title fight per year. Yes, you've heard that right. Francis Ngannou beat Stipe in 2021, defended in 2022 against Ciryl Gane. Jon Jones beats Ciryl for the vacant title in 2023, and then Jon Jones defends against Stipe a whole year and 3 months later against a 42-year-old Stipe Miocic. So really, there hasn't been an actual title fight since 2023. With a champion not defending, a young and star potential interim champion sidelined, a contender with a foot out the door, and the rest of the division not being close to an actual threat to any top contender, let alone champion, we have to ask, where the hell did this division go wrong? But before that, something that's going right is UFC 316 this weekend. UFC 316 is here, and we have the rematch between Merab Dvalishvili and Sean O'Malley for, of course, the bantamweight title. I'm really interested to see how Sean is going to adjust in this rematch. We also have a very underrated and upcoming fighter in Joshua Van fighting, and that should be a good one as well. And what's also good is that our sponsor at DraftKings is getting new customers who bet just $5, $300 in bonus bets if your bet wins. And you can do so by using my code TJLovesFights. So download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now today. You can also stay on the action and use your $300 in bonus bets on DraftKings same-game parlays for a shot at an even bigger payout by combining multiple bets together from the same fight. And if you love the thrill of live betting, DraftKings has got you covered. You can bet on in-progress fights right as they happen, making watching the matches that more exciting. If sports betting is not yet available in your state, don't worry. You can still join in on all the fun with DraftKings Pick 6 and have the shot to win cash prizes. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. New customers use my promo code TJLovesFights and bet just $5 on any wager and get $300 in bonus bets if your bet wins. That's promo code TJLovesFights only at DraftKings Sportsbook. So about 4 years ago, this division was actually pretty sweet. We had Stipe Miocic, who was actually defending the belt and was an active champion, and he was just coming off of 2 all-time battles with DC. We had a deadly contender in Francis Ngannou, who was on a hot streak ever since his loss to Stipe and Derek Lewis, knocking out Curtis Blades, Cain Velasquez, JDS, and Rozenstruik, all in the first round, with 3 of those going under a minute. Derek Lewis at the time was also a legit title contender, believe it or not, and was on a 4-fight win streak, which included vicious knockouts of Curtis Blades and Alexei Oleinik. And then we had an extremely young, talented, athletic, and undefeated heavyweight in Ciryl Gane that was quickly rising up the rankings with a beautiful display of striking and speed shown against Volkov in their first fight, another similar display over Rozenstruik, and a knockout win over JDS. Again, this division was really awesome at one point, with an active champion fighting the best and a lot of new young prospects ready to take on Stipe. So where did this all go wrong? Right about here. It's ironic because one of the best heavyweight moments in heavyweight history would start the dark ages of the heavyweight division. Francis Ngannou, who had a hell of a journey into MMA and a hell of a life journey in general, showed massive improvements from their first fight, showed that he could defend takedowns and actually wrestle, was patient in his striking, and knocked out the greatest heavyweight of all time to capture the title. It was a heartwarming moment in the UFC for a guy that deserved it and was supposed to be the start of a new star and possibly new face to the sport and maybe new era of the heavyweight division. But unfortunately, that was not the case. There were already rumors after this fight that Jon Jones was going to move up to the heavyweight division and take on Francis Ngannou. Even Dana White was trying to challenge Jon Jones to get him into fighting Francis, but of course, this would not materialize. Instead, what happened was Francis taking on Ciryl Gane, who just came off of an interim title win over Derek Lewis and was looking like a legit threat to Francis Ngannou. They had trained together, and in most of the sparring footage, it looked like Ciryl Gane outclassed him in the striking at least. And for the most part in the actual fight, the speed, the technique, and the distance management of Ciryl Gane looked like he was going to cruise to a decision. And this is when Francis Ngannou realized that he needed to mix the martial arts and turn into a wrestler, absolutely pummeling Ciryl Gane, and surprisingly pulled this off through decision. But he took this fight off of an injury, recovering from an MCL and ACL tear just weeks before this fight, which meant he was going to take a long hiatus. During this quote-unquote recovery, or what we thought was just a recovery, the reality of a Jon Jones versus Francis Ngannou super fight and clash at heavyweight was starting to become very, very real. We started to see Jon Jones training videos, and he was looking massive. Dude became a unit, and we all remember during this time, this was by far the most anticipated fight in the UFC, and we all thought that once Francis's knee recovered, that this was going to be his next title defense, until this happened. It felt like out of nowhere, Francis, about a year after he defended his belt against Ciryl Gane, would make a huge announcement, declaring that he no longer was in the UFC, stating that he did not like the new contract offered to him for various reasons. One of the primary reasons was just simply money, and he felt like the contract was a lowball offer, but additionally, he also wasn't able to get things for his fellow fighters like health insurance, and he also couldn't get a guarantee to fight outside the promotion in a boxing match, which led to the first mess and disappointment of a potential heavyweight fight featuring Jon Jones, and really the first time the heavyweight division was super stalled. Francis's first title defense came after 10 months and held the division up all the way up until his departure from the UFC, which again was about a year. But thankfully, we did have a super sick fight between Ciryl Gane and Tai Tuivasa in this downtime, which would lead to Jon Jones making his return against the winner in Ciryl Gane. Though this is where the heavyweight division gets really, really dark. Jon Jones, of course, would make history by becoming a two-division champion, defeating Ciryl Gane in the first and making it look easy in his return. This was then followed by an immediate call-out of former champion Stipe Miocic, granted an older version. This would set up a fight between Stipe and Jon Jones for UFC 295, but of course the story is not as smooth as it should be. Jon Jones would tear his pectoral in the lead up of this fight, meaning Alex and Yuri would headline and Sergey and Tom would fight for the interim title. And this event would be one of the best events, if not the best event of that year, with one of the best moments coming out of this event, including the crowning of Tom as interim champion. And this is where the pickle began. Does Jon Jones fight an older Stipe, the guy he was supposed to fight at 295, or does he fight the young, dangerous interim champion in Tom Aspinall? See, this is where the tension would really start, as Jon Jones was adamant that he and Stipe had unfinished business and that Stipe would be a much better win than Tom, despite Stipe not having a win since 2020 and Tom being the interim fucking champion. And what would really suck for Tom is that not only would he have to wait for Jon Jones to recover, he would also have to wait for Jon Jones to recover from his fight with Stipe. And in that time, Tom was forced to defend his interim belt and soon became the longest reigning champion. But granted, Jon Jones recovered and beat Stipe, so Tom versus Jon should be booked, right? The interim champion and the heavyweight champion should be unifying the belts shortly for undisputed, right? Surely Jon isn't in Thailand looking to retire, right? Which brings us to today. After 4 years and only 4 title defenses with over years between some of them, and one of them being a beatdown of a 42-year-old Stipe Miocic, this is the state of the heavyweight division today. For some reason, Dana White has had a really weird relationship with the heavyweight champions. Whether it be hating on the champions so much it forced an injury to be masked as a ploy to get out of the contract and jump ship, or loving a champion so much that he ignores a blatant duck of fighting the interim champion. These odd relationships with the heavyweight champion at the time has caused serious inactivity in the heavyweight division. what should be one of the most premier division considering how large these guys are, it's turned into by far the worst division in the promotion. So how do we fix it? Fucking strip John Jones. That's literally the only clear solution to making the heavyweight division great again. In this move, you get a young star in Tom Aspinall as champion. I think he's going to be a really good face to a new generation of heavyweights, and most importantly, he would be active. That activity will push the heavyweight division to get better if they want to be champion or at least an actual contender and everyone wins. I've also heard a rumor that the UFC is trying to sell the Tom Aspinall and John Jones deal to Netflix or whatever broadcaster wants to get the rights to the UFC, since the ESPN deal is expiring soon, which only God knows when that will actually happen. But additionally, I've seen the official UFC channel recognize Tom Aspinall and his call out for John to retire, so something might actually come into the works for John to retire really soon. But maybe that petition is really working. But whatever the case may be, the heavyweight division truly needs to get back up to speed. The last 4 years of this division has been complete ass, and we need the heavyweight division to be great again. So anyways, what do you guys think about the current heavyweight division? Is it the most ass division in the UFC? Will it ever recover? And will we actually see a deep competitive roster full of stars and most importantly, a champion that is active, ready to fight those contenders? But anyways, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.